Hello, my name is John Gibney, and I'm excited to have you in Introductory Biology this year at TAISM, the American International School of Muscat. This is for the 2022 to 2023 school year. This year, we're going to be using the next generation science standards, and those standards will be presented through this curriculum called The Living Earth by the state of California in the United States. It's a good curriculum. It's my fourth year doing it, and I really enjoy it. Let's dive in. So, what will you learn or investigate this year? Well, you'll be trying to investigate phenomena. And I know you did a lot of this if you were here at TASM in eighth grade with Mrs. Johnson. We'll have an anchoring phenomenon for a whole unit. So, for instance, in your ecosystem unit, it'll be a picture of your choice that you're trying to explain why the ecosystem looks like it does. And then we'll have lesson level phenomena where we'll try and investigate something cool each day. You also look at problems, right, in engineering. So let's look at some examples here. The fortune telling fish I gave out in class today would be a good one. The coronavirus, we're going to analyze, is it alive? Is it not alive? How does it impact us? Ecosystems, and like I said, your choice of an ecosystem. So I really like Finn's Beach in Oman, and I'll be looking at tidal pools there. Coral bleaching into diminutes, antibiotic resistance, sickle cell anemia, Terry Fox and cancer, lactose tolerance and intolerance in the Gulf of Oman dead zone, and many more. So that's what we'll investigate. We'll do this through the scientific practices in the next generation science standards. So we'll start each unit with a scientist circle, and we'll ask questions. We'll say, what do we wonder? We'll group them together, and how can we answer them? We'll then work on constructing explanations, and we'll do that through developing and using models and through mathematics and thinking. For instance, in our ecosystem unit, we might ask a lot of questions, and then we'll develop a model on carrying capacity, and we'll look at some examples of them for the white-footed mouse. We'll then plan and carry out investigations. We'll do experiments. I'm really excited to be back in person and doing that with you. And then last but not least, we'll take those results from the experiments and from all the research we've done, and we'll engage in argument from evidence. And this isn't arguing like yelling at each other. This is arguing like claim evidence reasoning. In other words, saying, well, this is the evidence that we have. This is the support that we have for our argument. All right, let us move on. So, how would I like you to think about all this? This is the cross-cutting concepts, and this is an area of growth for me. But as we approach lessons, we want to notice patterns in what we're looking at. We want to think about cause and effect, like hypothesis formation, and structure and function. And we see this a lot in biology. How does the structure of a biological molecule lead to its function, such as a carbohydrate or a lipid or a protein? And we can see it in bigger units too, like in ecosystems. We'll also think about systems and system models, such as the universe or energy and how energy is passed along. And really, students, as Mr. Kelly in chemistry and Mr. Bywater in physics, as we work together, you should see these across all of our courses. You should be able to think about energy and matter in biology, chemistry, and physics, and stability and change as well. This will be huge in our climate change unit. Let's go through each of the units real quick. So there's 6 of them. And you can think about the 6 units like 6 slices of delicious pizza that came out of a hot pizza oven, right? They're all going to be held together by the scientific practices. Those make up the dough. And really the theme of evolution holds them together. So the first slice of pizza that we're going to eat is ecology, right? And we're going to dive into an ecosystem of your choice. And we're going to look at what are some of the rules and laws and regulations that control population sizes that affect the diversity of populations in an ecosystem. And then we'll say, well, what happens if there's disturbances to it, and how can the ecosystem bounce back? And we'll really get to an underlying idea that the more diversity in an ecosystem, the more resilient it is. And it is up to us with our human influence to preserve as much ecosystem diversity as possible. All right, we'll do some analysis of trophic cascades and Robert Payne's experiments, where he showed how organisms can affect multiple levels on a food chain. At the end of the ecology unit, we'll do a pretty fun lesson in the Serengeti on the cycling of nutrients and matter. So how does nitrogen move through a system? How does phosphorus? How does water? And how does carbon is the big one. That will tie us into our next unit of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So we've gone from a big picture of ecology and ecosystems when I'll zoom down to how does carbon move around. And this gets us to a fundamental relationship in biology that the products of photosynthesis are the inputs for cellular respiration, and the products of cellular respiration are the inputs for photosynthesis. I go a bit in depth here because I feel like it provides a great foundation for students who might want to take IB or AP biology and students who want to really look at how molecules are rearranged. It's pretty fun. We'll get to do some great labs with this unit as well. Well, then, after we're done with thinking about Earth's energy and how it processes, et cetera, we'll go zoom back out and we'll think about evolution. And we'll do this through models, and we'll try and really construct an explanation of why antibiotic resistance is increasing. Why is the coronavirus mutating? Why are there different variants as well? This will take us right up to the winter holidays. I really like this quote up here by evolutionary biologist Sean Carroll, that mutation is random and natural selection is not. And we'll be able to tie together what we've learned about with ecosystems and what we will learn about with DNA and see how a mutation in a gene can then be selected for or against. And so we'll do lots of modeling. We'll work on the rock pocket mice here, and we'll see how a mutation in the MC1R gene led to a different color in their coat, and then that color could be selected for or against depending upon the environment. And this was with some volcano ash that was laid down in the southwestern United States. We'll then look into the unity and diversity of life, right? And evolution really explains that, and we'll see that in phylogenetic trees here, or how species speciate and become different species. From there, we'll then, when we come back from the holidays, we'll dive into many students' favorite unit, favorite pizza slice for them, which is genetics. And this is a lot of fun. We'll look at family trees, and we'll do Punnett squares, and we'll figure out how are traits passed down through generations. And those traits or those genes are really segments of DNA. And those segments of DNA are going to code for mRNA, which is going to code for a protein. And we'll go through that as well. I bring in some biotechnology here. It's not the next generation science standards per se, but I think it's a very useful application here because it's something that could be a future job if you're interested in it. So things like electrophoresis or things like polymerase chain reaction. We have a PCR machine this year. We'll then go into cells to organisms. And this is where many biology classes start, but I kind of enjoy having this later in the year. And this is tons of experiments, right? How do cells work? How do they maintain homeostasis? How do organisms grow and reproduce? And I think it is really rewarding here, and we'll get to use tons of stuff with the microscopes, etc. This I've got like an overall arching graphic for it. I call it the story of you, and so it just kind of helps to tie everything together. If we start out with a fertilized egg, will undergo many rounds of cellular division. The cells become specialized over time due to different factors that activate different genes. If anything goes wrong, the cells could keep dividing and be cancerous. We're maintaining homeostasis. We're happy here at TAISM, so we're keeping our blood glucose levels or our pH levels the same, or our water levels. Organisms make gametes or sex cells through the process of meiosis, and then when they're combined together, that is genetics, looking at which genes came from which parent, and then the probability that certain phenotypes will arise. And once again, that centers upon that genetics is really looking at DNA and how that codes for a protein. And then, we tie that all together, looking at cells and staining them. And these are some actual cells we stained in class, and thinking about eukaryotes and prokaryotes and more. Last but not least, Unit 6 deals with climate change and how increasing greenhouse gases in our atmosphere is leading to changes on Earth, and how we can design solutions to it. And so we'll start with looking at changes in the past, the Milankovitch cycles, and then looking at what has been happening now, as shown by the Keeling curve and greenhouse gas levels currently. I have historically ended the course with debates on this with geoengineering, and I think I'll keep that this year. And it's been pretty fun to see the students do research and bring that all together. That's it. That's an overview of the course this year. Please drop me any comments, or you can always email me at any time. I'm looking forward to learning with you. Let's have a great year, TAISM. Take care.